Hello, Max. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Nico.
How are you enjoying Lisbon so far?
Fantastic. It's one of my favourite haunts. I always travel here for pleasure, apart from business. I like the vibe in this city.
Nice. Well, tell us a bit about yourself and who you're here representing and what you're currently looking for.
Well, I wouldn't know where to start from. I've been invited by the VNTR organisers to hold a keynote on the investment opportunities in climate change space. And I'm also moderating a clean tech panel in the afternoon because that's very much down my lane, what I have been doing for many years. I'm the chairman and founder and CEO of the Climate Change Investment Forum, which is, it's fair to say now, is probably one of the most prominent gatherings of private wealth, impact private wealth, laser focus on one thing, investing in sustainability in the broadest sense of the word.
Interesting. So obviously it's fair to say that you're quite an expert in investing in climate change and impact, etc. What is the biggest challenge? I know it's a very, very big question, but what is the biggest challenge in that space?
Well, the biggest challenge is the time, because, I mean, it's no laughing matter. We can just pontificate until we're blue in the face as to how beneficial it is and sustainable investing, whatever. But we have to do this very, very, very quickly. And we're dramatically lagging behind, I'm afraid. The overall direction where private investment is going is right, it's correct. But the pace is not right. And the biggest challenge is whether or not we'll be able to really bridge this gap if we're really determined to preserve the world as we know today for future generations. I'm not saying that, in 50 years' time from now, the world will collapse and whatever. No. But the world as we know today will be very, very, very different from what we know now, okay? And a really consolidated action by the investors community, by the politicians, has to be taken in order to turn the tide. It's no laughing matter.
Absolutely. And I think it's a really interesting concept that you've got private wealth making these big investment decisions, because it's fair to say that private wealth cares more about the future of the planet
Absolutely.
than governments, right? Because governments and prime ministers and presidents, they care about the next 4 years, the next 8
Exactly.
years.
You're
And
speaking.
and then they care about their retirement package, whatever.
Absolutely.
But these private wealth, they care about their great-grandchildren, right?
I'll probably take it one step further. There is more greenwashing at governmental and policymakers levels than private investments, be it institutional or private, doesn't matter really. I've always believed in the power of private wealth more so than any sweeping statements by policymakers.
Yep.
When the likes of Narendra Modi hits the stage in Glasgow and declares in everyone's hearing, mind you, India is set to go all out green in 50 years from now. I promise. I take my word for it. I can't think of a more groundless, ungrounded statement than that. Where will you be, my dear, in 50 years' time? Okay? But you're absolutely right in saying that the private capital has a much more, well, certainly has a much bigger bandwidth, and it's more long-term oriented. That's, to me, it makes a bigger impact than the most wonderful political frameworks that we might think of.
Exactly. I did a research project earlier this year about family offices and sovereign wealth funds, and every single one of their homepages or landing pages is all about future generations.
Which is good.
Everyone said.
Family offices have to care about future.
Of course.
It's about succession. It's about.
But it's really interesting to kind of hear about what they're worried about. They're not worried about crypto or any of this kind of, could be argued, quite short-term, high reward, high-risk things, but they're just thinking about the very, very long term.
Which I think is good. Really, family offices do have to have this direction, really, because at the end of the day, it's about succession, it's about legacy, it's about handing over the reins, so to speak, to the younger generations. That's absolutely the right thing. The caveat here is that, unfortunately, a lot has to be done in the space to educate them. As I'm saying, the traction is there, the interest is there, is growing, and that's why CT Forum has been trying to fill in this gap. presenting these opportunities to the investors. Because at the end of the day, we're a melting pot of concepts and ideas on the one hand that are represented by startups and scale-ups in various stages of development, from pre-seed to NASDAQ or LSE listed. And on the other hand, we have the investors community, which is represented by LPs, family offices, investment funds, VCs, angels, and the trend that I've been witnessing consistently is that family offices are more, they're more difficult to budge. Here they are jumping on the bandwagon if the concept in question is already listed and it's done as a seed, everyone wants to join in. But very few family offices invest in seed stage or pre-seed. Sometimes it breaks my heart to see fantastic concepts, just being given turn a blind eye on. And that's where VC capital firms, they fill in the gap, because they bridge the gap between the two. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's really, really interesting. So before you mentioned speed was the biggest issue. And is that
the
mainly...
pace, not the speed, the pace
okay.
rather than...
So is that because of bureaucracy, education? Is it because of accessibility? Like, what is behind the issue of pace?
Very good question, very thought-provoking and in-depth question. Thank you for it, really. I mean, there are many factors, really, and there is no simplistic answer to that, really. Well, it has to do, I would have thought, largely with the fact that there is a certain inertia, if I may suggest, in the overall the way that we perceive what's going on the planet. People are still, wedged in their small hoods, and sometimes they just don't think they bear the brunt of the climate change. They think it's just on the news somewhere, CNN or BBC, somewhere else, not here. But believe it or not, sooner or later it's bound to hit each and every. And you won't simply be, well off, watching heartbreaking news on CNN about, for example, recently, the Valencia flood or the droughts. When you come to really experience that firsthand, it's then a trigger. It's then a call for action. To just give an example, what was an eye-opener for me, we're very fortunate in having a little chateau, which still requires a lot of reparation that's still leaking inside the roof. We bought it from a duke's family in France, and it dates back to the 15th century, and it's got a fantastic moat. So what happened is that, and by the way, it's always been known to host a huge amount of what's called golden carps, fishes like this. Since 15th century, it's always been in the chronicles. So what happened in 2022, 2 years ago, for the first time ever, France has experienced such a drought of such a scale and extent that for the first time ever, this moat, which has been fed by a brook, dried up completely. And all these wonderful carps, they died. The stench was horrendous, but more heartbreaking was the sheer fact that he couldn't do anything about this. When you come to witness this firsthand, that's certainly an eye-opener to you, really. And that's why it's just corroborated my own thoughts as what we're doing with the CT Forum isn't going in the right direction.
Right. Well, I know you've got to host a panel in a few minutes, so thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Nick, for having me.
Yeah, no worries.
Great.